Have you ever wondered what games you should keep or you should lose? Find out here at Purge Reviews. Have you ever wondered what games you should sell or you should use? Find out here at Purge Reviews. Find out on our top 10 list what games you cannot miss. Don't forget to subscribe to Purge Reviews.
I'm not going to attempt to explain all of the rules in This War Is Mine. I just kind of want to show you how it works a little bit. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to have these characters that you're going to have on the board. And this is how it'll look like when it's set up with the guard. And this is kind of what their character card will look like. You're going to have a few things on here that are important. The prowess, the empathy, and their inventory. So this is how much they can go out and scavenge. The prowess will help them sometimes when they're guarding and it's different things. And then some of the event cards will recognize the A, B, and C, and you'll have to do it. And you may have a power for the most part. In addition, you're going to have these three objectives. You're going to have a stage 1 in the first chapter, one for chapter 2, one for the finale. The finale is always going to be at least keep one character from the starting of the game must survive into the end. And these will just be things that you have to accomplish before the chapter is over, X, i.e. a number of rounds. At the end of the chapter, all characters' hunger must be 0. You get a reward or a penalty if you do it or not. The majority of the game is going to be triggered off of these little clips that you'll get. If you get an extra fatigue, it would go up. And what these are going to show is the 3 possible actions that you have on a turn. But if it's blacked out, that means you only have the first and the second action. So if you had a 1 fatigue and a 1 misery, because it's blacked out on the third one on at least one of them, you could take the first and the second action, but not the third. Now, if you had 2 fatigue and, say, 1 misery, then you could be able to take the first action only because the second and the third will be blocked out. The first thing you're going to do on a turn is you're going to flip over an event card and do what it says. In this case, you're going to put a cold, and you would put a cold marker up on the spot up there. Bad news, raise all characters' miseries by 1, so you would increase their misery. After you resolve this card, remove it from the game. So these are kind of bad things that will happen. So what you're going to do is kind of take 3 rounds of actions when the game starts, and you can just kind of move your person around the board. You'll see a ladder right here where the guy can go downstairs and do something. You could go over here and take care of this rubble or walk upstairs. Right now, a lot of the room is going to be blocked off. So let's say I want to put this guy on the heap so he can search, and I wanted this guy to go here and poke about and maybe have this new idea. Or I could go to this rubble, but it requires a shovel. So if I had the shovel, I could put it on the card, signifying that I'm going to utilize it this turn. On the poke out, I would just roll the dice, and there's a little chart on a 5. I can either get 2 wood or 2 of these components. And whenever I grab something or gain something at this part of the game, it will come down here and just set up on a storage at the bottom of the board, and that's what I have. Well, in this case of the heap, it only requires a search. Then I would just flip the card over and do what it says. In this case, it says I get a weapon part, a sugar, 5 components, and 2 woods. And then I would add these to my storage and remove this card from the game. And that allows this area to be opened up, where maybe on the next turn I can go over there. So I utilize these 2 guys. They'd come back here kind of to the guard position. And this guy would utilize the shovel here and dig through it. And I would flip the card over, and it says, well, I have to dig through it one more time. I can either put 2 characters on it or require a shovel. So for my second action, you guys would all come back. Maybe I'll go ahead and go back, and I really want to shovel through that remnant right there. Maybe send this guy up here to do the heap, and maybe I have a lockpick, and I want to go here. The closed door requires a lockpick. And then there is a dice roll that you would do to see if you're successful. And let's say that I rolled an 8, and I'm successful. I would lose my lockpick for opening it. Then I would get to flip this over. It tells me I gain 3 wood. Add these to the storage and remove this card from the game. So this door would now be open. And the heap over here works the same way that I did before. I flip it open, get the goodies on it, and remove this from the board. And let's say I did this. The shovel comes off. You don't get any reward for that, but it does come off the board. And now I'm able to go over here and deal with this furniture on a different path. So that's kind of what you're doing on the board here. There is an option right here that you can go to, where you can go outside. Now you would have to roll the dice and see if a sniper hits you or not. And if you're successful after that, whether you get a wound or not, You can draw and resolve a visitor card, and that's how you're going to trade goods. Do not overlook this spot when you're playing the game. That's an extremely difficult part of getting sniped at, with perhaps some bad rolls, but it will help you get the items that you need. That's the first part of the round. You're going to take your 2, 3. Normally you're going to have 1 or 2 actions. Very rare you're going to have all 3. And kind of go around the house and get some goodies. Kind of scavenging, if you will. So the second part of the phase is going to be Dusk. And this is where you're going to drink water and eat food. So each person will need to have one of these water little pellets. Otherwise, if you don't, you'll roll the dice and you may either get hungry or be in misery. Each of the people will also need to eat. If you don't eat, your hunger will increase, and it could either kill you or require you to perform less actions each turn. The good thing is if you have food, you can reduce it. If it's raw, reduce it by 1. And if you have canned food, it can reduce it by 2. So you want to make sure you can eat if possible. It's something you'll want to scavenge for. The third part is going to be the evening. And you're always going to want to leave at least one person to guard. Theoretically, somebody who has the highest prowess. The other 2 people, or 3 people, 4 is the maximum characters you can ever have at one time, will go out to this findings pile and they'll scavenge. It's normal to keep 1 or 2 behind, but you're going to want to keep somebody out kind of looking around. Now, when you're scavenging, we're going to be looking at this top place. There's going to be 3 locations away. There's going to be a lot of information on these. I'm not going to go over what all the locations do, but suffice to say you can pick one of them, the closer one or the further one. The closer one is going to give you a little bit more of an advantage. This is going to be the bottom 1/4, the bottom left corner of the board. This is where we're going to be playing kind of the scavenger, if you will. Based on where you go, you're going to draw a number of exploration cards equal to the number beside the location, and you'll take those cards. In this case, there's going to be 14. So you will shuffle your exploration style and deal 14 off. Once you have your 14, you will stick it down here on the unknown, and then you will start your scavenging. And this is going to represent you going to that location and scavenging around. I'm going to bring the location down next to you just for a reference here at the bottom of the screen so you can see what we're doing a little bit. So what you'll do is you'll take the first exploration and you'll just kind of read what it says. And this card says if there are bars, which there's not, there's a basement entrance and a jammed door, you will just discard this and draw another one off the top of the deck. And it says you may ignore this card, so you can completely ignore it and do nothing, or you can search for the furniture. You can either return 2 exploration cards, and if you do that, you just take 2 cards off this deck and you put them back in the draw pile. And what that's going to represent is just you spending more time doing this. So you could do that, or you could raise the noise level and roll the noise. Let me show you what that noise level is. The noise level is going to be up here. When you're scavenging, it's always going to start at 1. So if you want to, this card said we had to raise it by 1 and roll. So now it's at 2. You'd roll the die, and as long as the die is above it, greater than it, then you're safe. Nothing happens. If I would have rolled a 2 or a 1 on the die, then I would have been found out, and I'd have to go back to the card and see what happens. So if you roll equal to or less than, then you have been heard. So then you draw and resolve a card. If you had been heard, then you would take one of the cards, perhaps from the resident deck. You have to do this. So let's say you were heard. We would do this, where some rebels were there. Determine the number of rebels, so you roll the dice to find out, see what kind of weapons they had, and then you would fight them. Now, you don't want to fight people if you don't have to, so with these guys, they have moonshine, they want to trade with you. So if you want to trade, then you would go here and go into the book, and I'll show you what the book does in just a second. Otherwise, if you didn't be heard, then what you would do is you would draw one of these finding cards, and it tells you to check on the furniture. So you look at this, and here's the furniture. You get herbal med, jewelry, weapon part, and a filter, and then you would roll the black die. And when you roll the black die, it's going to correspond to this little chart that's on your location. So depending on what you roll, you might get some extra goodies, but you also could get nothing. So you would continue to go through that deck until you're ready to go home. If you ever draw something, have enough stuff, you don't like what it says, a lot of these cards at the end of exploration, you would look at one of these and see what happens. let's talk about those numbers that you're seeing everywhere. And we're going to pause here on how to play. You're going to have this book of scripts. Now, this is a book with a bunch of paragraphs and things that were said and choices. Think of a Choose Your Adventure book. If you played Arabian Nights, it's kind of like that. Or any of these games. I'm kind of going fast. There's no spoilers, but you can kind of see. Here's an FAQ, so even the rules are going to be in this book. I'm like, read this and know how to do the day actions. I'm not showing you anything that you won't see at the beginning of the game, but the rules are kind of stuck in here. It makes it a little tough to learn the game sometimes because you can't always refer to the rules you want to. So it might tell you to read this and you can see what happens. Sometimes it'll give you a decision. Sometimes it'll just be back to the game, as you can see. So this book of scripts will tell you the story of the game. After you're done kind of scavenging and finding out what you want, any goodies you get, you'll be putting them up here in the finding spot. And when you're ready to go back, you will refer back to your character card, your inventory. This is how much you can carry. So if you have 2 players there and they both have 3, you can carry 6 pounds worth of stuff. If it's like this cigarette and it has no marker on it, that's just the value, then it doesn't cost anything. You immediately take it back. If you have something like this alcohol, has this symbol on it with a 1 on it, that means it takes up 1 of my inventory space. So if I use this and wanted to carry it back and I had 6, I'd only have 5 remaining to bring back goodies. Now while you're out at the end, you can bring back as much water component or wood as you can carry. So if you don't like the goodies you got, you can always bring these back. These each cost 1 space of your inventory to bring back. And water is going to be scarce, guys, so this is very important. Remember to do that. Before your buddies come back, you will be raided each night. So your buddy who stayed back to guard will have to go through the raid. And you will just pull a raid card off the top of the deck. You will just choose one, but I'm going to show you a couple of different ones. Then you will do what it says. Now in this one, for memories, this is a very unique one. You choose the character that's guarding it. You choose their name. So let's say it's Bruno. And whatever his misery is, you'd roll the dice and kind of see what story you would read. A lot of these have reality impact. It tells you kind of what to do. Something will happen. And sometimes, unfortunately, you'll see some starving people will come by and they'll damage things and you'll take wounds. So these will kind of happen. There are ways to prevent some of this by boarding up the windows and having people with prowess so you can re-roll. So who you leave back can be an important decision at times. And then the last thing you'll do each round is a scavenging party will come back. They will bring all the goodies they were able to get. They will bring those back with them. And then you'll kind of take care of if anybody was hurt and injured. You can give them medicine, bandages, that kind of thing. So the last thing you'll do is you'll draw one of these fate cards. And these fate cards will just have things that will happen to you in the round. So you see here, you'll raise the illness of all characters, heal all the wounds, discard the bandages. If there's cold and boarding up the windows. You'll get rid of one of the locations on the board and bring something new out. And then you resolve the spirit C. This will be on the character cards. And all these will work a little bit differently and different things will happen. And this just represents random fate that will happen. Then the last thing you'll do is you'll draw 2 of these narrative cards. And you'll choose one that you want. These are usually going to be bonuses. So play during the scavenger phase. Instead of rolling for the noise, set the noise to 1. Play at the beginning of the evening phase. Choose one character. Their character may perform all of their actions again as if it was a day action. So these will be things that will help you. The fate usually are just kind of the cleanup of the board where the narrative is going to kind of push things forward, but in a positive way for you. So that's kind of how you play. The first thing you do is draw an event card. You'll do some actions in the house depending on how many actions you have. And then you'll place your guys either guarding or scavenging. And then you'll do this little mini game down here where you're scavenging, pulling cards, seeing what happens, making decisions. And then the guard will be attacked. And he'll either lose some of your goodies or get injured, or maybe nothing will happen at all. Maybe somebody just come along and want to trade. And then the people will return. You do the fate card and the 2 narrative cards. That's kind of an overflow of how it works. Let's talk about a few things in this game. So the wounds. You're going to use, when you're fighting somebody, you're going to be using this up here. And this is kind of how the bag is. So every time you take a hit, you're going to have dice that you roll depending on what type of weapon you have. So you roll these dice, and if somebody takes a weapon, they'll keep going across until they die, but your character can also take wounds. So fighting in this game is very dangerous, just as it wouldn't be in real life. And the game kind of simulates what it's like to live in a war when you're not a superhero or a ninja warrior or something, but real people go through. This War of Mine is probably my favorite story-driven game. Now, before we jump too much into this, I have to say that this War of Mine has adult content. It's not for children. and it's predominantly a cooperative game. I say predominantly because I really feel like the game probably works best as a solo experience. This is a solo game. Sure, you can play with other people, it's well within the rules, but any given time somebody's the leader and they're making all the decisions, hopefully with the input of others, then you pass the book and somebody else will make the decision. So it's almost like you're playing one. There's 3 characters that you'll play, as many as 4, and I guess the least amount is 1 because people will die. But it's one person controlling the game and you pass it off and you pass that off. So it almost feels like it was built to be a solo experience, but those games don't sell as well. So they added on that you take turns controlling the group, I guess is the best way to put it. Now, as a story-driven game, the game is very strong. You see a lot of games that have a story in it. There's not much game. There's a lot of story, or the story happens and you have very little control. With that said, there is some randomness in this game. You're turning over cards. There doesn't seem to be enough of those. I wish there were more cards. I have no idea, but they just didn't give you, 50 of those fate cards and 50 of those exploration cards. Why there's so few of those? Maybe there's printing purposes. The game wasn't cheap when I bought it, but I did buy it secondhand. But I feel like that I wish there was more. And I don't think there's going to be an expansion for this. I think what you're going to get, some of the Kickstarter bonuses and exclusive, is all that there's going to be. I can't imagine there being more, but maybe there will be. With that said, I feel like the game is strong in what it's trying to do. It's trying to teach you about the horrific nature of war, but not through a soldier's eyes. It's going to be through the eyes of common people like you and me. What happens when civil war breaks out and the bombs are bursting over you and law is gone and the snipers outside your window? There's not enough food for people. You can't go to the grocery store and buy food. You have to go out at night and scavenge, but you have to leave some people behind to take care of your place because your place is also where the other NPCs are going to be going to scavenge. So you need to defend yourself also. The game isn't designed to really win. Although there is a winning objective. It's not really the point of this game. The point of this game is to learn about war, how horrific it is, and see what happens to your characters when they die. When they die, you feel like this loss. You feel like a little bit heartbroken, especially when the NPCs died or your characters that you're controlling die. You do feel that loss. And the game drags you in rather quickly into that. It's amazing to me how quickly it's able to establish the characters and the story of it and what you're trying to do. It's one of those games where you kind of want to take your time and let it soak into you. And when you're done with it, you kind of think about what just happened. Wow, that was horrific. And some of the decisions you have to make are extremely difficult from a narrative perspective. Now, if you just kind of rush through this and don't think about decisions, sure, it'll be easier for you. But that's not the point of what we're doing here. The game itself is fairly easy to learn. The game teaches you how to play as you're playing it. So there's no rule book to digest. You set the game up and you start playing it and it teaches you the rules as you go. That makes it a little difficult to go back and refer to the rules because they're in the book of scripts, just kind of stuck in there. But the game works, and I think you're piecing it together little by little so it doesn't make it that hard to understand. With that said, I really like this game. If you're looking for a story-driven game with a good narrative, with adult themes, when I say adult, I don't mean there's going to be, pervert stuff in this, a lot of drug use. I just mean adult themes like there's war, things are going on. You're going to make decisions on whether you should help random children on the street or you deliver packages to somebody. It's a love letter from their child and wife. Do you deliver that or do you take the goodies, the medicine and the stuff in that? Hard decision. From a game point standpoint, yeah, just take the goods and I leave. I think it gives you a sad story about what happened. And that's just one scenario. I'm not really spoiling anything. That's one of 3,000 different stories in this book. But these are hard decisions. They become hard. The more you let yourself go into this, the harder these decisions will become. From a game point standpoint, you're not doing a whole lot. There's some die rules. There's some, you want to go inside your building and try to get the goods as quickly as possible. You're going to have some decisions about what you're going to build that will help you down. I think there's some optimal strategies you need to do, like build a bed. That's probably a good thing to do. And most people will see that immediately. You will think about it. Okay, what do I need? I'm going to need a bed. I'm going to need a heater. I'm going to need some food and water. And there's never enough. There's never enough food and water. You have to go out every night and scavenge for these things. And you can only carry so much crap back. It's not one of those Nintendo games where you have unlimited storage. You have so much. What are you going to bring back? What's going to help you guys the most? How much risk do you take before it's too much risk? So you have this exploration deck when you're out scavenging, and you can press your luck and keep going and trying to get better stuff. Man, you're making noise, and people will show up and they will fight you. Sometimes it's better just to get what you need and then get the heck out. Because when you stick around for better things, bad stuff can happen. This is a game that will pull at your heartstrings. It will really, really affect you, and you have an emotional reaction to this game. That is amazing. Not a lot of games do that. This War of Mine does. It puts you some hard decision making. It's not so much hard decision making in the game, it's the ethical decisions that you're going to be making. And you don't see that a whole lot. I mean, Pandemic Legacy gets a lot of praise for allowing you to do that. But it's nothing like the ethical decision that you're going to make in this game. If most games you find some food, yay, and you get it. And you never think about, wait, I just found food or ammunition? I'm stealing that from somebody. This game makes it perfectly clear that you are stealing the ammunition from somebody. For you to eat, somebody else isn't going to eat. Are you okay with that? If you're not okay with that and you try to play, let's say, the more liberal side of life where this is their food, they're going to have it, then you're going to die and your game is going to be over. And it pushes you in. Now, it's not so much, are you going to scavenge or are you going to take stuff? How much are you going to take? More than you need? Because you need to stock it up for later in the game. These become very difficult ethical decisions. Now, if you were to play with a child, an older kid, these are great talking points to talk about and to bring up. This game should and will bring emotion out in you. As a game, it's pretty strong for other story-driven games. Comparing it to Arabian Nights or something, there's a pretty strong game attached to it. You're not playing a Euro game. You're not playing Lisboa or Agricola where a lot of your decisions matter, but they do matter, and you have to think these things through about what you're going to do. There's context clues in the story about maybe what you should do, but you're open to do pretty much whatever you want. It's going to be consequences for your actions. So this War of Mine, I think, is for a niche gamer. I don't think it's for everybody. If this sounds interesting to you, I don't believe you'll get what this game will give you anywhere else. I think it's unique in that fact. Maybe there's something out there, but I'm unaware of it. So if this sounds interesting to you, this is the game to go out and get. And I'm going to take a step further. Not only do I think you should buy this game, but I think anybody else listening says, that doesn't sound too good. I think you should try this game. I think there's something to be learned, something to be taught, and a certain type of fun to be had by just playing it at least once. So even if this isn't your market, branch out a little bit. Let's investigate what this is. Let's see what this game has to bring. Because this game is pushing the boundaries of art. And before you jump on here, let me tell you it does so in a tasteful way. It's not distasteful. It doesn't tell you that all soldiers are bad. It says there are consequences to war that are bad. And whether you're the most liberal person or the most conservative person, I think we own that. We say, yes, war is bad, and there are bad consequences to it. And I don't feel like the game takes a side. It just says it really stinks, and here are some stories about what happens. So this is an absolute keeper for me. I find it interesting as art. I find it interesting as a game. And I think that you should seek this one out. Play it, buy it, enjoy it. This War of Mine. Thanks for watching the video. I really appreciate you tuning in. If you liked it, please like it and hit that little subscribe button. That really helps out the channel. Lets us know that you're getting the videos that you want. If you agreed or disagree with what I said, feel free to comment below. I'd love to hear what you have to say, and I promise that I will comment back. Thanks for watching, and everybody else, keep playing games.